Good morning, everyone. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap. I've been working on getting my setup together because it's been a while. It's been a while. I haven't been behind this desk in quite some time. So hopefully you guys can all hear me. I was rushing around this morning trying to get everything set up, and it has been a while. It feels really strange to be back here behind the camera. Never my favorite place to be behind the camera. But we got lots of things to talk about today, lots of catching up. Good morning, Joe. Good to see you this morning. Lots to catch up on. And I don't know why I'm having like the craziest echo, and I don't know why, but it's annoying. But I'll get all the little bugs worked out. It's kind of funny. I feel like I was just getting all the bugs worked out, then took a really long break, and here we are back again. And I think I can't even remember really where we left off, but I think that I'm going to try to fix this audio. Good morning, Karen, because I cannot handle hearing like double voices. So there's probably a reason why. We'll figure it out. Or I'll just take my headset out. It'll be that easy. Since I don't have any guests today, I don't need a headset, so it doesn't really matter. So, good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are all having a good day, good weekend. I think it's going to rain a little bit. I'll be a lot better off without that distraction of hearing the echo in my ears. And good morning, Rob. Thank you. I'm glad to be back. It's kind of strange being gone for so long. I've had so much time to reflect on everything. As you guys know, my last show, I think I wasn't on because I was going to get that biopsy, a couple biopsies done. And it turned out I had thank God it was not a malignancy. I had a it was a long road, quite honestly. In October, I was having a hard time breathing. They said I had some lung nodules. Then you have to wait and do like a scan 3 months later. In my case, it was 4 months later because my doctor was really slow in ordering it. And then at that time, the lung nodules were growing. So that's always a cause for concern. Then they scheduled me for a PET scan, and I had some what they call hot spots. And then that progressed to them scheduling me an appointment with a lung cancer doctor and getting these biopsies done. And you know what? It turns out and some of you may have seen my Facebook post, I had a very strange abscess in my lungs and in my lymph nodes, which is really strange, caused by this bacteria that is sometimes found in the mouth. But my doctor said, this is a lung cancer specialist, infectious disease doctor at St. Louis University. And he said he's only seen this once before. It's extremely rare. But then I'm thinking, well, how rare is it really? I opened up my Facebook page this morning to see that someone I know on Facebook, somebody I don't know personally, but on Facebook has the exact same thing and they're in the ICU right now. It's like, why is this happening? Like, was it the fog vid? Was it COVID? Like, something weird is going on. And I think that doctor knows something weird's going on because he's like, this is really strange. So I have a follow up appointment next week. We'll see where it goes. I took a round of antibiotics and I'm feeling pretty darn good. So those are good. Thank you, Kimberly. Good to see you. Good morning, Vernon and Ken. Good to see you all. You know, I will tell you what, it's been a tough go. As you guys know, during that time, I lost my stepfather, Don, which was really hard. And he's been my stepfather since I was 6 years old. So, really, the only father that I know. Have a biological father, but I've only seen him a couple times in all these years. So, I don't really have a true relationship with him. Maybe someday that will change. But my stepfather's always been there for me. He did everything for me, just like any father would do for a child. And, I've been in one of his caretakers for the past 2 years. He, as a matter of fact, used to reside in the room, right next to where I'm at right now. And it was definitely very difficult. And if you've been a caretaker of someone that passes, you probably know exactly how I feel that every minute of every day you spend thinking about the care, of your loved one. My family, we all coordinated every single thing we did to make sure someone was always with him. And it's none of us have quite gotten used to it yet. It's a tough situation. I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to be upset throughout the show, but it's definitely been very difficult. Good morning, Tammy Jerry Hoover. Good morning, Cindy. And I'll tell you what, we'll talk more about it another time. The grieving process is just crazy. I feel like I was it just in a fog. And then Friday morning I felt somehow I just kind of snapped out of the fog, and I don't know exactly what happened. I think when he started getting going declining and getting worse, my brain just automatically just went to a completely different place. And then I was like, "Man, how am I ever gonna, come out of this crazy place that I'm in?" And I don't know why, but Friday, it's like it was weird. I don't really know what happened. I woke up, the sun was shining, and all I was trying to tell myself is just, to be thankful for all the really great things. So we'll talk about that another time. I don't want to be upset. Good morning, Beatrice. Good to see you back. So lots of things to catch up on, lots to talk about today. We have Colonel Joe Adams, of course, joining us on Wednesday with the Washington Guard. Can't wait to talk to Colonel Joe Adams. I know I've only been gone for a couple weeks, but I seriously feel like it's been forever. I really feel like it's been forever. I feel like it's been forever since I talked to Colonel Adams and seen all of your lovely comments. And things are going to change. Now I'm going to change the show up quite a bit, and I've been wanting to do that for a long time. But my brain has been so focused on other things that now I'm going to be able to do a little bit more and concentrate a little bit more, work a little bit more on getting the show where I would like it to be, which was always my goal. So I'm not giving up, not giving in. Good morning, Mary. Good to see you. And so some of the things I want to talk about today, what doesn't change is that nothing is happening. I keep seeing all these updates on the Epstein files, and I'm like, we still don't have names. We're getting information, but I'll tell you what, I'm starting to think now that the reason why we don't have names is because it's so much bigger than any of us ever thought it would be. So much bigger. And we're going to talk about that. And I want to talk also about not only just about Epstein and some of the new information that we've been hearing, and I'm sure many of you have already heard it as well, about the connection to Obama and the CIA, and was potentially Epstein a CIA asset? Was he running an operation to put people, and I'm not taking any of the blame off of Epstein. He absolutely was a pedophile, a terrible person, but did the government use him to entrap others for political reasons, monetary reasons? We're going to talk about that. Good morning, Dottie. Good to see you also this morning. Cocaine Gate. How can you not talk about Cocaine Gates? Anywhere where Zelensky goes, I think I don't know, obviously, Zelensky personally. I don't know anyone that does know him personally, but there are a lot of people who joke. I don't know if it's a joke or real, that talk about him being a big cokehead. And I personally believe it's probably true. And so we're going to talk about Cocaine Gate, as you guys know, from the train ride through, I think it was, I don't know if it was to Kiev or back from Kiev, where we had French President Macron, German Chancellor Merz. We had who else? Starmer from the UK, Blair Starmer, or was that? Yeah, Keir Starmer, also on the train, and they have something what looks like a tissue where you see Macron hurry up and put it away. Somebody said it was a spoon, and we're going to talk about that. I'm going to show the videos and talk about. I'm going to show a couple of the photos as well. We're going to get the idea of what you guys. Good morning, Sherry. Good to see you. Good morning, Scott. Good morning, Mandy. Thank you, Mandy. It's good to be back. It's tough to be back because my brain is not quite where it should be yet, but I'm almost there. I got a lot going on, and as I said earlier, when you're a caretaker of someone, it takes time for things to normalize again, and especially for the show, because a lot of times when I was doing the show, I could hear my stepfather in the next room. He'd be like, "Where is everyone?" And there's nothing I could do. I couldn't answer him because obviously I'm on here, but the show's short, so it didn't take long for me to get in there to him. But I don't think he ever saw the show, which was what funny. By the time I started doing the show, I think he had very little interest in politics, but boy, he was a good patriot. Good morning, Lori. Good to see you also. So those are some of the things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about Fauci, because I'll tell you what, how can you not talk about Fauci and all these other criminals who have been so heavily involved in our government under the Democrat regime? And when I tell you about Fauci, if you guys have or have not already heard this story, it may or may not surprise you, but it absolutely disgusts me some of the things that we do in this country. And I don't even want anybody to tell me it's all in the name of science. I don't even care about science at this point. Good morning, Glenn. Thank you. Good to see you. And Sherry, my mom was on hospice for 7 months. I watched her die. Oh, you haven't recovered. It's a tough thing. My stepfather, he was, some people can be on hospice, as some of you know, for a very long time. My stepfather, he's 89 years old, and he was on hospice for almost 2 years, if you can believe that. And he was, I don't know what the proper term for it, not quite a quadriplegic, but very close to. And then at the end, pretty much was. But he had a spinal stenosis. He had a benign um, mass in his brain, and it really impinged on a lot of things. And he has been in a wheelchair for about 2 years now, full time in a wheelchair, and then he did not have the use of his right arm, and there maybe that last week, he also didn't have the use of his left arm, and that's, of course, when things started going downhill. The nurses, they don't know if he maybe had a little bit of a stroke, and that's what caused him to lose that left arm, but he was already getting to that point, and I know, Sherry, you've probably been through this, so many of you probably have, to where his quality of life was just so bad. There those last maybe month or two, it was so bad, and it got to the point where, you put a straw in his mouth to drink, and he doesn't know what that means. He could not drink out of the straw. You put food in his mouth, and he doesn't chew it or swallow it because he doesn't understand what that means to chew or swallow the food. He's his normal self otherwise, watching TV and seemingly mostly normal, but he just could not figure out how to eat or drink. And, when that happens, things start going downhill pretty quick. And when, at 89 years old, you've lived a good, hopefully good, full life. And he was, was in pretty bad shape there those last couple weeks. It was really difficult to see. And Sherry says, hospice is no longer a death sentence, it's caregiving at home. That's exactly right, Sherry. And, we had nurses coming in and out. Nurses came out twice a week, sometimes more often. There towards the end, they were coming out every day. And man, they were fantastic. I don't know what we would have done without them. But for any of you who've been through it, it's a tough battle. They tell you to give. It's kind of upsetting, quite honestly. And I'll talk about this a little bit more. Oh, you know what, Sherry, you're going right where I was going. And my stepfather didn't have the fentanyl lollipops. I've heard about that. But when they gave us bottles of morphine, I don't know, oh, well over a year ago, with Ativan and some other things, but we just never gave it to him. He was never in pain. I'm not going to give someone morphine if they're not in pain. Morphine is for pain, and I feel like I saw it with my grandma. I also was a helped in the care of my grandmother before she passed away, and it was the same thing. Once they started saying, now she was in pain, that was the difference. And they said, well, when you give her morphine, it's when everything goes downhill. If you're ever in a situation where you're a caregiver, I'm sorry, but if those hospice nurses tell you, and I like the hospice people, but if they tell you to start giving your loved one that combination, that what I call the death cocktail, which is the morphine and the Ativan, don't do it. Not unless you absolutely have to. Do not do it. We didn't. They told us to. They kept the log. They kept asking us, why are we not giving him the morphine? And it's like he doesn't need it. He's not in pain. There's no reason to give him morphine. And I know their goal. I mean, it quite honestly, they very outright tell you their goal is for the patient to pass away. I mean, that's what hospice is about. Some hospice companies, you got to be really careful, because we had a different hospice company in the beginning, and they made it very clear to us that they wanted him to die. That's their goal. They want them to die. And if they don't die soon enough, then they don't want to be your caregivers anymore. And the second company, called Vitas, Vitas, they were fantastic. They were also the group that my grandma had. And so when my stepfather got to the point where he did seem like he was in pain, we did start giving him just the tiniest bit of the morphine. And he was already taking the Ativan for anxiety, because obviously, if you're in a wheelchair and you barely have use of one arm, you're going to be pretty darn anxious. And so Once he started taking the morphine and, it was downhill pretty quick from there, but again, it's the morphine isn't what did it. I don't think he was already in, losing when you lose the ability to eat and drink, things go down pretty darn quick. So, yeah, it's tough. Sherry, it's almost like they want to kill them. Oh, no, they do want to kill them, Sherry. They do. I'm absolutely convinced that hospice does want to kill your loved one because that's how they make money. And the first group we had who were really nice nurses, they told us that the goal here is to see him pass, and the sooner that he passes, the better. And I'm like, what in the world? And, so we get this other company and they now they didn't we didn't have any problems with, and not that we had problems with the first group, but the second group we had, they were just as nice as could be, and he absolutely loved them. He was so happy seeing them come in. And good morning, Peggy. Glad to be back. So we got news to talk about. Donald Trump, as you probably saw, and trust me, we're going to circle back on other days and talk about hospice and hospice care and that cocktail of Ativan and morphine. And we're not done talking about that. Done for today, talking about it, but we're not done talking about it because it's a problem and a situation so many families face all across the world, and you can easily look it up and look up what they call the morphine Ativan cocktail. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to get too much into this today because, oh, Dottie, you threw one out of your dad's house. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to because you don't always agree in the methods of care, but it's tough. I know my mom, she was, had a really tough time giving my stepfather the morphine. And you when somebody's in that situation, you just keep hoping they're going to wake up and get back to normal. We kept thinking, well, it's the morphine, keeping him sedated, even though he was sedated or he was unresponsive before we started giving him the morphine. We didn't give him the morphine first, we gave it to him after he became unresponsive, and because his heart rate was high and it looked like he was probably in pain, but we don't know. He couldn't tell us. But at one point, we stopped giving him the morphine, and he did get up and he did eat, drink like a few syringefuls of Ensure because we're going to try to do anything we can, to keep him alive. But then after that, he was back out and he just wasn't waking up again. It's a very difficult situation. Peggy says you've been through hospice too. It's a tough world. Those nurses, man, they're good though. The ones we had were good. And good morning, Oneless. I'm not sure who you are because I don't recognize your name, but I probably know you. And Sherry, oh yeah, you wouldn't even let one in the house. I know it's tough. And you know what? What I kept telling myself is we'll all be there one day. I mean, unless pass on in some very quick manner, most of us will probably be there someday. And I'll tell you what, if you haven't done it already, go out, get a will together. I'm going to have somebody come on and talk to us about these things, but get your will together, start planning ahead. I knew what my stepfather's wishes already were. He's, very, I would call extremely Catholic. He always wanted a Catholic funeral mass, which, by the way, we're going to talk about this tomorrow, is the Catholic Church. I don't think I'll have time to talk about it today, but if we do, we will. And I'll tell you what, I've learned a lot about I am Catholic. I don't attend a Catholic church right now, but I've learned the good and the bad when it comes to planning these services. So we'll talk probably more about that tomorrow. Good morning, Ken. Good to see you. Can't wait to have you on the show. Now that things are settling down a little bit, Ken, I'm going to be on you. And Mandy says, my dad's hospice team were angels. Yeah, Mandy. And then I think that's the case most of the time. All of the nurses we had here at the house from both companies, the first company and the second company. We didn't fire or get rid of that first company. It was a situation where they have a policy where if the person they're doing hospice for doesn't pass away within 3 months, they stop hospice care. So then we got this other company called Vitas, and they were with him till the end. And all of the nurses from the first company, the second company were fantastic. He was happy to see them all. They were all very compassionate. They all came out and took good care of him. I have nothing bad to say about any of them. They were all, again, angels. They were absolutely wonderful. And I'm very happy to have had them, here because I really felt like I could call them at any time, day or night, ask them any question, that there was. And They were always there, always responsive, and they did so much. And we were so lucky. The funeral home here in town was fantastic. The Catholic Church was, believe it or not, the only people we had problems with in the beginning, which is a, I'm going to talk about that tomorrow because my stepfather worked for the Archdiocese of St. Louis for 35 years in his retirement. And he was retired, believe it or not, for 35 years. And so I've got a lot to say about that. I'm gonna wait until tomorrow, but I've got a lot to say about that. And yes, Ken, I'm gonna get a hold of you later. We're gonna have you on. Ken, as some of you know, on the comment line was the pilot of Marine One, and he flew former President Ronald Reagan and George Bush. And I think we're going to get some stories out of Ken. We're going to do our best anyway. But in the meantime, we've got stories of a different kind. I want to show you this video if you guys know what cocaine gate is. And we're going to talk a lot more about some of this other stuff later, including those lung abscesses, because that's exactly what I had. I don't know what's happening. I'm going to try my best to find out. And the only reason why I don't know is because just yesterday and today, I'm seeing all these stories of people. And I'm not going out and looking for this information. It's just passing through my news feed. And people that I know, on Facebook are having these same problems. And for those of you who don't know, again, thank God I didn't have a malignancy, but I had like an abscess in my lymph nodes, in my chest, which is a very critical area, and in my both lungs. And so that's what it turned out to be. Hopefully, antibiotics fixed me, but someone else I know right now is in the ICU in critical condition with the exact same situation. So, what is happening? Something that my doctor told me was extremely rare is happening to all these different people. So, where did this come from? Where did it come from? Was it COVID? Was it the fog vid? What are they doing to us? That's always the question I have in mind. What are they doing to us? Something. What it is, I don't know. Linda says, my neighbor works for Vitas. Oh, do they, Linda? Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, they're a really great company, and some really great nurses. So I want to talk about Cocaine Gate because some of you probably saw the train ride, from Kiev, and that was with French President Macron, who I can't stand. We had German Chancellor Merz, who I also can't stand. We had UK Prime Minister Blair Starmer, I also can't stand. And these people are terrible people. Nothing surprises me at all. And I'm going to show you the video because this is just huge right now online. And the premise of the video is that reporters entered the train car where these three had been sitting, and they'd been sitting there for quite some time because they were taking a train from Germany, and I believe they were on their way to Kiev, but they had just met with Zelensky, of course, Ukraine President Zelensky, and who is known to be a huge cokehead. I don't know, but that's the word on the street, is that he is always all coked up, and it makes sense to me. Now, what you're going to see is a video of these three sitting around a table. When the press enters the room and they realize, oh, these people have a camera, they hurried up and hide what looks like a tissue. Some people said it was a bag of white powder. I personally think it looks like a tissue, but not your ordinary tissue. And unfortunately, I couldn't show you the up close photo that I have of the tissue. It would not load this morning, but it's hard to tell what it would be either way. It still looks like a tissue to me. You guys can tell me what you think. And then we have Mers, who looks like he's trying to, some people called it a spoon. To me, it looks like a stir. So I'm just going to show you the video. Then I'm going to show you some up close photos of what they had here. So let's take a quick look. And Dottie, Dottie says they were in a cocktail lounge. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard, Dottie. Sherry, oh my God, Macron was busted. He looks busted, doesn't he? Let's take a look here. I guess there's no video. I mean, no sound. I've got two videos of this. I'm going to show one. I don't know if none has sound. I don't know. We'll take a look. There's the other video. I don't think my sound. Oh no, that's the photo. Sherry says, old school girl here knows that was a spoon. Now, see, I don't know. Now, here's a picture of Macron. He's got the tissue. Do you see it? And I'm going to play that video again, but that's the tissue. Some people said it was a bag of white powder. I personally think it looks like a tissue, but I really don't know. When I saw the up close up close photo of the tissue. It didn't look like a regular tissue, so I don't really know what it is. Here's the alleged spoon. So Sherry, you said you know that this is a spoon, but what kind of and you're right, nobody holds a tissue like that. So if it's I mean, is it a drink stirrer? Is it a spoon? I mean, I could see maybe where somebody would think that could be used for cocaine, I guess. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know anything about cocaine, so I don't know. But something weird was going on here, and I guess this video just doesn't have sound. I thought it did, but we're gonna take another look at it here. I have my sound up, so that's not the problem. But as you can see, he grabs that, he holds it in his hands. And then in a minute, he's going to switch it to the other hand, and it's going to kind of go out of sight. And look, they pan the camera away. Did you see that? So he could hide it, which is really strange. Sherry says used to sniff, which makes sense. I mean, that it does make sense. So do we think that, I'm going to play this again. Do we think that the three here got some cocaine from Zelensky? And look, he's going to see the Kleenex and grab it. And the other guy, Starmer, he's got his, or Mers, I mean, he's got his hand on the straw. They all look very uncomfortable, don't they? They all look very, and of course they pan the camera away so that he could put it down. Now somebody said that Mers motioned to him to put it away, and I don't know if that's true. I'm going to look again and see if we can see that, but I didn't see in this video. And just so you guys know, some people are saying, oh, it's AI. There was no tissue there. That's not what we see. However, it is exactly what we see, and I've seen this from different camera angles because there were more than one person in there with a camera. And yeah, they do have that look on their face, don't they, Dottie? Like, I hate to keep playing this over, but it's such a short clip. And look at Mers. Okay, he's like, oh, he grabs the little straw thing. He grabs the Kleenex. He looks guilty of something, doesn't he? I mean, they all have this look on their face, like kids. You know, like if you're a child, they all have that look on their face. You know, if you're a kid and you're sitting around the table, let's say you're drinking at a party, and your parents walk in the door and you hurry up and hide things, you get that look on your face like, oh my God, I know they just saw that, but I'm going to do my best to hide it. That's the looks they have. I don't see why Macron would need to hide a tissue. I mean, yes, that it may look unsanitary to have a tissue on the table, or was it a tissue? Some people said it was a bag of powdery white substance. To me, it looks like a tissue. The way he holds it in his hand, it looks like a tissue. I don't know. I just don't know. Did he put it away because it looks unsightly to have a used tissue sitting on the table? Was the stir or was the spoon really just a drink stirrer? I don't know. I really don't know. And I don't know if we'll ever find out the answers to any of these things. But I'll tell you what, I'm not surprised at all at any of these any of these accusations. And everyone's saying, "Oh, it's AI, you know, there was really nothing there." I'm like, "Okay, well, I've seen 3 different camera views." I didn't want to play them all because they weren't really all that different, but it was 3 different cameras that were on them. It wasn't just one person with one camera, it was several cameras. And I think it's also very telling when the camera pans away intentionally so that he could put that tissue or whatever it is he had away. Did you notice that? They panned the camera away. And now I didn't see this, but somebody said, well, words or Merz, German Chancellor Merz, motioned for them to turn away, motioned for Macron to put that away out of his hand. So we'll see. I don't know if we'll ever hear any more about it, but in the meantime, it's a lot of fun to speculate with what they might be doing. And quite honestly, it does not surprise me at all. Macron, I think, is a complete idiot. And some of the things that he's done in the past, you know, they're all part of the problem in this world, as you guys know, all part of the problem. So who knows? And if Zelensky truly is the cokehead they say that he is, who knows? They might have just been having a big party on the train. And Sherry says, if I was a cop, they'd be under arrest. They sure look guilty of something, don't they? What that is, I don't know. But I don't think they'd look that guilty for just leaving an unsightly napkin or tissue on the table. I don't know. Looks pretty suspicious to me. So we'll see how that goes out. But that was a meeting with Zelensky that they had just met with Zelensky in Kiev. So we'll see. Something else I want to talk about is of course Epstein. A lot has gone on since I had a show the last time, and we've still not seen the Epstein files. I know they keep releasing more and more information, and some of it is telling, some of it's not. More recently, they released if you guys saw that, some calendar information. And the calendar information was really just, I think it was Epstein's assistant, and she was just writing in different meetings that he had with different people, which was quite telling to some degree. But more importantly is the connections to Obama. And I have to say, I'm not surprised. I absolutely do believe that Epstein had a lot of connections to a lot of different people. And I think that's exactly why we're not getting the information that we need. I don't want to blame Pam Bondi. I don't want to blame Donald Trump. I don't want to blame Kash Patel. I think they're all doing the best that they can do for Americans to get us the information that we want. But I'm starting to understand why it's taking so long. Ryan says cokehead lizard people. That's so funny. Um, and so I'm starting to understand why it's taking so long. So the question is Epstein a CIA asset? And the more you read, the more that's uncovered, the more it kind of leads me down that path to understand why these files are taking so long to be released, because there's just so much more to it. Now we're hearing about these connections with Obama. I'm not going to say necessarily it's a personal connection. I don't know that, but it is absolutely a business connection. That is a fact. I have no proof that Obama ever went to any of Epstein's parties or his island or anything along those lines. But we know for a fact that Obama was connected to Epstein. We have a situation that was revealed in this latest, release of documents where we had, I don't think this is going to surprise anyone. It was Obama's top lawyer, Catherine Rumler. We've all heard of Catherine Rumler from Obama and the Obama administration. We all know who she is. Well, now we find out that Catherine Rumler, Obama's top attorney, had met with Epstein several times. And allegedly, Epstein was trying to connect her with who else but Bill Gates. And so that she could work with Bill Gates. And of course, you guys probably already know, Bill Gates recently announced that he's going to be giving away almost all of his fortune, if you want to call it that, money he's made off the backs of American people and his crazy mad scientist experiments. So Bill Gates is going to be giving away his vast fortune to various charities, and then he's stepping down from the Bill and Melinda Gates organization, charitable organization. And I think it's because now this is just my opinion, I think it's because he knows he's about to go down. We already know his connection to Epstein. That is not in question at all. His wife, Melinda, stated very, very publicly that she divorced Bill because of his relationship with Epstein, because of his trips to Epstein Island. She never went further than that. She never mentioned that Gates, had any hookups with any of the clientele, or the victims or anything along those lines. She stopped short, of going that far, but she made it very clear that she was very unhappy with her husband for his relationship with Epstein. And we're hearing more and more about the connection between Bill Gates and Jeffrey Epstein, and how not only did Bill Gates to make several trips to the island and to these various townhouses and other properties that Epstein owned, but now we're finding out that he was also meeting with Epstein and Catherine Rumler, Obama's top attorney. And that's a pretty big connection right there, quite honestly. And then on top of that, and this is even crazier, is that William Burns. Now, William Burns at one time was the Deputy Secretary of State for the Obama administration. And guess what? Under Biden, he became the CIA director. Coincidence? I don't think so. And he was found, based on this calendar information, to have met with Jeffrey Epstein again on a number of occasions. He went to the townhouse, the same townhouse that Jeffrey Epstein owns, in which victims have given testimony that they were raped and trafficked in this townhouse. And we have William Burns, obviously clearly associated with the Obama administration, visiting that townhouse. Now, when he was questioned, William Burns stated that he was there because it was recommended to him that Jeffrey Epstein could give him financial advice for moving from the public sector into the private sector. Now, why would anyone seek that out from Jeffrey Epstein? Makes absolutely no sense at all. No sense at all. And so that's two Obama administration officials that Jeffrey Epstein was in contact with, met with several times. So then you've got to start thinking about, well, was he a CIA asset? A lot of people are believing that that's a good possibility. I'm hearing it from a lot of different people, not only people I trust for news sources, but behind the scenes information. And some people call it a honeypot, type situation. I don't know if I call it that or not. But then the question would be is did our government under Obama, did they use Jeffrey Epstein to entrap other folks, world leaders or celebrities or you name it? Is that possible? Did they use him from the CIA to reach out to these different officials, maybe from other countries, maybe within our own country? And we know that Jeffrey Epstein videotaped every single thing that happened in his townhouse and on his island. We are hearing now from Pam Bondi herself, that said there's thousands of videos of Jeffrey Epstein himself, committing acts of pedophilia against children. He taped everything, absolutely everything. So then we've got to start asking ourselves, who is involved? How many people? How bad is it? Are they names that we know? Probably. And if these people were to be outed, if we knew their names, would it destroy our country or another country? I mean, we're talking about serious economic impact to some degree. So I'm starting to understand why they're not wanting to release these names because of course, we've always known they're big names. That's not new. That's not new. But when it comes to entrapment and CIA assets and videos that were used to potentially, because think about it this way. Let's just say Obama as an example, being the president of the United States at the time, uses Jeffrey Epstein to say, let's say I don't have a specific person in mind, but let's just say there is a leader of another country that Obama would really like to entrap so that he can work some deals with and force somebody to comply with something he wants to do. And so he has them meet up with Epstein or somehow has Epstein reach out to this person, lure this person to one of these townhouses or to the island, set them up with a minor or just somebody that was trafficked, and then the next thing you know, of course they have a video. They could take that video back and say, hey, look what we have on you. You guys know how it works. I don't have to tell you. Look what we have on you. We expect you to agree to blah 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 blah. How far does it go? How deep does it go? And would our country work with a pedophile in this manner? It's pretty crazy to think about. Sherry says, Law and Order SVU before they went woke shows how witnesses are killed, deals are made, victims change their minds, families are killed, suicides. This will wipe out all of the elites. We must be patient, trust the plan. You're right, Sherry. Sherry says, a coincidence that Senator showed the entrance to the tunnels at the White House. Ally Carter said she was trafficked by Obama. It's a pretty crazy situation, Sherry, and I really do wonder, how deep does it go? How many people are caught on that video? How many world leaders? How many people within our own country, members of Congress, were caught on those videos? And I think you all know how easily that can happen. And it to me, it's like the Epstein and the Diddy files. Everything's so closely related. It kind of makes me wonder if Diddy followed the plan of Epstein, if he knew exactly how that situation was working out and kind of did it himself on I don't know if I would call it a lower level, because that's a pretty involved case too, because we know what Diddy is accused of. We don't know all the names. I think we'll find the names out from the Diddy accusers and abusers sooner than we will the Epstein list. But they're very, very similar cases, in my opinion. We know that Diddy used the videos to blackmail people. That's something that's been discussed. Obviously, he's not convicted, but we're seeing it all play out before our eyes. And it seems like Epstein was doing the same thing. They're kind of working separate things, but yet the same principle. It's kind of weird that all of this is happening. Then you start thinking, well, okay, we have Epstein, we have Diddy. Who else is doing this stuff? Clearly, there's somebody else out there who's gotten the memo that says, well, we can blackmail people by luring them into these different situations and getting them on videotape. I feel like the whole world's about to crumble around these people. It's not going to affect us, but I think it's going to crumble around, like Sherry said, some of these elites, people who definitely should not have been where they were doing the things that they were doing. And I know Democrats are going to say, "Oh, Donald Trump," not Donald Trump. I can assure you and promise you that if Donald Trump was on an Epstein file, we would have seen that a long time ago. If he was seen on video at any Epstein party, that would have been released way back in 2016, probably long before that, even when Donald Trump first started talking about becoming president. There's no way that he's on any of those videos. So we don't even have to worry about that. Good morning, Elizabeth. And some of the other things I wanted to throw out, we'll keep on, of course, the Epstein case. There's going to be more information released. They're slowly releasing things. What we want to know is that there will be arrests. And I feel like Pam Bondi and Cash Patel are assuring us that there will be arrests, that they are tearing into this. They're not gonna let these people go unpunished, especially the people who victimize children. They're not going to allow that to go punished. But it's hard, and as Sherry says, we just have to kind of wait out the process, wait for it all to line out. But it will line out. We will find out a little bit more. And of course, they'll do anything to get back at Donald Trump, won't they? But I don't expect to have his name anywhere in these files. Something else I wanted to throw out, which kind of disgusted me, and I don't know if you guys heard about this or not. I haven't been here for a couple weeks, so there's a lot of things you guys know that maybe I'm just finding out about. But some reports I was hearing about Dr. Fauci, Anthony Fauci, and with the NIH, and man, I don't even know how to phrase this exactly. It's so bad that and there's a lot of things I have in my head about Dr. Fauci and how he should be prosecuted and held liable. I don't care that he was the director of the NIH. I don't care. I don't care that he was, appointed or hired to do this position and he was only managing these projects because it is what needed to be done for medical research. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is the fact that our country is carrying out these experiments, and these experiments are disgusting, depraved, absolutely not necessary, absolutely not necessary. And what I was watching a report on yesterday is reports of Dr. Fauci and the NIH and these projects are carrying out where they were purchasing fetuses that had been aborted from various abortion clinics. They would take these fetuses back to the NIH. They would cut their scalps off. I'm sorry, I know this is graphic and it's very difficult to hear. It's very difficult to think about. But they were taking the scalps of these unborn babies and just the scalps, and they were attaching them to rats, lab rats. And the goal was to see how long the skull would survive on the heads of these lab rats. I mean, I my mind is just blown by this. Like, what is the purpose of this? Why would we do this? Why is the NIH doing these things? I understand, it's an aborted fetus. It wasn't like that they were killing live babies, to experiment on. But, it's just the compassion, not only for unborn fetuses, but even for the lab rats themselves. No animal should have to go through that type of torture for, and there's a lot of people who will completely disagree with me and say, you know what, we wouldn't be where we are today medically, with pharmaceuticals, with the health field, if we didn't do these types of experiments, and that these experiments save lives. I don't How does this experiment save a life? I don't understand. Are there a lot of scalpless people out there where we have to run around and find out how a scalp, how long it lives? when attached to a rat, it makes absolutely no sense to me. And I know we've done experiments in this country probably since the beginning of time, and some of those experiments absolutely have revolutionized our medical practices and surgeries, and there's no doubt that some of these things have saved lives. But I will never ever agree that our NIH, who is, by the way, I consider a government organization, they're working under federal grants, are being paid by the United States government to conduct these experiments. And to me, there's an unborn fetus, even aborted fetuses are sacred. You just don't do these types of things. And I'm really horrified by it. I don't know what's going to come out of this. I don't know if Fauci's ever going to see a day in court, not only over this, but everything he did to us when it comes to COVID. I don't know, but I hope so. I think there's a lot of people who I would like to see stand trial for a lot of different things. And I understand the flip side. People are probably thinking, listening to me saying, that is the craziest thing I've ever heard. The guy was doing his job. He was the president or the director of the NIH, and that's what he was tasked to do. And he's not held personally liable. Well, maybe people should be held personally liable when they're conducting these type of experiments and when they're responsible for the deaths of so many Americans. Maybe they should be held liable, because at some point when you're the director of an organization, all of that responsibility does fall on you. And I don't know about you guys, but I am not going to so quickly forget what Fauci has done to us. I'm not going to forget. And I know, and I have heard that Kash Patel and Pam Bondi both have talked about moving forward with potential charges and an investigation against Fauci. So we'll see where that goes. Yeah, he's not going to be charged for these lab experiments, of course, but at the same time, where does it stop? How okay is this? And why don't we know about these projects, and why don't we see the information on these projects? I think that it's a disservice to the American people that we have these things going on in our country and we know absolutely nothing about it. And if we know about this experiment, trust me, there's plenty that we don't know. Plenty that we don't know. Some I understand, some not so much. And one of the last things, a couple last things I want to talk about, because of course we're going to hear we always hear Trump is so bad, such a bad guy, such a terrible person. He's done such a disservice to this country. I mean, last time I looked, gas prices were down. I got gas the other day. I think it was for $1.97, which was pretty darn good, in the St. Louis area. And egg prices are down, right? Grocery prices are down. Utility prices are down in some areas. I heard not across the board, but we're getting there. The price of oil, like crude oil, I think dropped down below $60 a barrel. We are making giant leaps, and I don't know how anyone could say that we're not. Democrats, a lot of them, of course, Democrats in Congress, a little on the crazy side, they'll never get it. But I thought it was absolutely amazing to hear Scott Bessent, our U.S. Treasury Secretary, I'm going to play a little video of this, talking about tariffs. Because, of course, Democrats want to say, oh, we're just hurting ourselves with these tariffs with China. But, Trump knows what he's doing. He's a great negotiator. He's been doing this probably literally his entire life. He has had these tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, a plan in his head for 40 years, I think he said, which is absolutely insane. He knows exactly what he's doing. But China has, of course, revealed that they are going to put a 90-day pause on tariffs. That's going to bring tariffs down by 115%, which is absolutely amazing. Glesna, hi, are you visiting Illinois? Oh, Glesna, where are you in Illinois? That's exciting. And oh, by the way, and happy Mother's Day to you guys also. That's something I didn't mention earlier. So I'm going to play this quick video from Scott Bessent. Hopefully it has sound. My other video didn't have sound. I don't know if it's because it didn't have sound or just doesn't. Let's see. We don't have sound. We'll see what happens.
Agreement
oh, no,
on
no
a
sound.
90-day pause.
That's so strange. I wonder why. Let me see if I can turn something on to get sound. I guess I don't have everything set up as well as I thought I did.
Both sides on the reciprocal
Hold on a
tariff
second.
will move their tariffs
We will get some
down
sound here, I do believe, in just a moment.
115%.
Oh, I see what the problem is. I think.
We had very
I was
robust
messing with this
discussions.
earlier, and I guess I probably should have left it alone.
Both
I
sides
don't know if we'll get
showed
sound or not,
a
but
great respect.
darn it.
It was a chance for me to meet
know.
the
Can you guys
Chinese
hear? Oh, you have
delegation.
sound? Just I don't have
The
sound.
vice premier, I had
Okay,
previously
I'm sorry.
had only a
I can't
video
hear
call
anything you're saying.
with.
But I'm glad that you guys
Ambassador
can.
Jameson was familiar with two of the other leaders on the delegation from his previous time. So there was very good personal interaction. Both countries represented their national interests very well. We concluded that we have shared interest, and we both have an interest in balanced trade. The
All right. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why I can't hear the sound, so I apologize for that. I will get all of this worked out for tomorrow. I haven't been back behind this desk in a couple weeks. I was kind of running through the motions yesterday and this morning to get things in order, but I already know what he's saying. What a fantastic deal that is, isn't it? 90 days pause on reciprocal tariffs and reducing tariffs by 115%. Now, not only, oh, and by the way, did you guys see the reporters grilling Scott Bessent? First of all, I had no idea that Scott Bessent was gay and had a husband with two children. I really had no idea. I don't care. It makes no difference to me absolutely whatsoever. But I absolutely love Scott Bessent. Quite honestly, I think that he is my absolute favorite member of the Trump administration. He is. The guy is absolutely brilliant. He was a billionaire before he stepped into this position. The guy is absolutely brilliant. And I love him as our Treasury Secretary. Absolutely love the guy. So I'm so happy that we have him on our side. I have no doubt that any project he gets involved in, that he is going to go to the hilt for Americans to make sure he works out deals. He's been, talking to Zelensky. He's been talking to Putin. He's been talking to China. And, one of the things he revealed with his talks with China is that they had no intention of lowering any tariffs against the United States under the Biden administration because they felt that Biden was weak. And they were right. And that's how many world leaders, if not all, felt under the Biden administration. We all know that now they're dealing with Donald Trump. They know they're dealing with Donald Trump, and things are changing, absolutely changing. Same with pharmaceuticals. I'm sure you guys already heard pharmaceuticals. Trump signed an executive order, and that executive order is bringing down the cost of prescriptions from 30 to 80%. Because we here in the United States have always paid higher for prescriptions than other countries have paid. And like Donald Trump said, you can go to the same lab, have the same drug, but we're paying 30 to 80% higher for the same drug than other countries are. So now, of course, he has written an executive order. We are going to see drug prescription costs go down by 30 to 80%, which is absolutely amazing. It's unbelievable to me how much people have to pay for prescriptions as it is, and particularly people who don't have insurance. So I see a lot going on with Donald Trump in this executive order. Not only is it going to lower the cost of prescriptions, but ultimately it's going to lower the cost of health insurance premiums. So there's a lot of winning situation there. Outside of that, the only thing I wanted to really talk about really quickly before I head out this morning, and I'll have it a little bit better together tomorrow. Kind of a slow start for me today, and I can't hear anything because maybe that's why I can't hear the video because I have my headset in. Because it was, if you guys recall, if you were here at the beginning of the show, I was hearing an echo, so I had to take it out. But I want to talk about the situation with the Indian-Pakistan war. And I know it's been a lot of back and forth. A lot of people I'm reading, people's comments on social media really have no idea what's going on. And was a long time coming. I'm not happy about any war. I don't want to see any lives lost in any war. But Pakistan has become the caliphate for Islamic jihadists. It really is. If you guys recall, that's where they were hiding Osama bin Laden. Remember that in Pakistan? And it has become a place where Islamic extremists have come to live, have come to plan. People who will come out and attack other countries like the United States. They'll go back to Pakistan and hide. And it is just a hotbed of terror activity. And not only that, but we had people coming from Pakistan, if you guys recall, into Afghanistan, killing innocent Afghans. We had people from Pakistan going into India, killing innocent Indians. And India had no choice. They had absolutely no choice in this matter. They had to do this not only for themselves, but for their surrounding countries. And we have to do whatever we have to do to fight back against Islamic terrorism. And I'll tell you, we'll talk more about this again, and maybe on Wednesday with Colonel Joe Adams we can talk about this a little bit because if you don't believe it, you better start planning ahead because Islamic extremism is growing in this country. And you will hear from people who are Islamic tell you that, hey, America, we're coming for you. We're coming for you. And I don't mean necessarily in a terror capacity. They want to take over our population. Their goal is to be in our country, to have as many children as they can, to take over the population. That is their goal. Now, I know Muslims who do not share that goal. They don't really care. But then we have to go back and look at the folks who are a little bit more on the extreme spectrum, and those people want to take over. And it's just a matter of time, quite honestly. I don't know if there's anything at this point we can even do to stop it. And we'll be talking about that more a little bit later, maybe on Wednesday with Colonel Joe Adams. And Dottie says it says everything that things are only getting done via executive orders. You're right, Dottie, because we cannot count on Congress, not even the Republicans in Congress. Because if you've noticed, the in Congress have been pretty darn quiet, haven't they? Most of them have been very quiet. Cherry says, Little Rod has come out of hiding for the Diddy trial. Kaboom. He's the first to bring the lawsuit. Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing the dominoes fall in the Diddy lawsuit first. So we're going to get some answers there far before we get any answers for Epstein. Glesna, Hamas to release Eden Alexander in about 2 hours. Another win for us, thanks to Trump. You know what, Glesna? I'm so glad you brought that up. You are absolutely correct. You know, we've had a lot of really big winning situations. And I know people want to say, well, yeah, Trump's done a couple good things. He has done a lot of really great things. If you think that he hasn't done a lot of great things, then you're just watching you're watching the wrong news. You're watching CNN, MSNBC, where all they want to do is trash Trump. But I'll tell you what, the man is fighting hard for us day and night. And don't think that he's not still under threat, you know. And we got so much to talk about this week because I've been gone for a couple weeks. I know I missed Elon Musk's departure, you know, from the Department of Doge, and Doge still carrying on and still making changes. That won't stop. So lots to catch up on. We're going to talk more on another day about hospice and care. We're going to talk more about people having these very weird lung abscesses because eventually you're going to see what I'm seeing, and someone you know, hopefully not you yourself, is going to have one of these weird abscesses. I don't know what's going on. I really don't. I have no idea why this is happening, not only to myself, but to other people as well. So we're going to keep on top of that. Lots of things to talk about throughout this entire week. So much to talk about. But that's it for today. Sherry says, I'm getting tired of winning. Never tired of winning, Sherry. Well, I do hope you guys. Sorry, I'm still having some lung problems, but mostly good. Anyway, sorry about that. I do hope you guys have a really great day. Looking forward to the rest of the week. Colonel Joe Adams joining us on Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap.